Hi there, this is something I picked up at this weekend's radio rally down in Dunstable, or it's actually in Luton actually, but this is a Hallicrafters S19 or Hallicrafters Sky Buddy. These were manufactured between 1938 and 1942 I believe, and this one's in pretty good condition and quite rare to see, I understand, over in the UK. I've certainly never seen one before. As I say, it's in pretty good condition. Just a few little scratches on the dial here. Some rust marks, so the screws are a little bit rusty around here. But overall, it's in pretty good nick. And I'm told it's working as well. Let's swing it round and have a look at the inside. I'll put the camera down because despite its smallish size, this is quite a lump. Right, here's a look inside the back. There is no rear cover on these. It's a metal cabinet all the way around and probably not tightened down. Let's have a look. One thing, if you own one of these and you're in the US, because I don't think they're that common over here, is this lumping great transformer here. This is what most of the weight actually is of the set. Now this transformer enables it to be used on UK mains of 240 volts, and you can just see there's a selector on top here for 240. I'm told the set is working. Don't know how well, and I'm just sort of having a quick look at it actually just to see what I need to do. Some of it was, you can see here, it was sort of covered in mud a little bit, and there's some mud on there, and it's quite, not really rusty, but it is fairly rusty in places. So my intentions as I look at it at the moment is to not touch the outside of the cabinet because I want to keep it original as possible, but I might spray this chassis. The chassis doesn't come out actually. To work on it, there's some screws here, you lift the lid off, and there's a plate underneath here that you unscrew. Otherwise the metal bit here looks like it's spot welded to provide rigidity to the rest of the cabinet. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 valves. It's got a beat frequency oscillator, which will be the 6th valve. So there is some work to do on it, which I'm quite looking forward to actually. And just looking at the valves, this one here, you can see they've handily numbered it a 41, and that valve was a 42. I'm pretty sure they're interchangeable. Well, they must be interchangeable. Someone must have put it in there for a reason. This is an 80 tube. You've got our 6SQ7 there. Yeah, 6SQ7 there. It's an octal. And a 76 valve there that's a bit loose on its base. I don't know what that one is, but yeah, it looks to be fun. Let's get the valve back in. It's an American 6-pin valve, the 80. There we go, got it in at last. So yeah, it's it's in pretty good nick inside. There's no, just this bit of manky surface rust here. So as I say, I'm gonna probably, you know, take all the valves off, mask everything off, and spray it with a black paint just to protect it, because it's done pretty well so far. I assume this is I've had a look inside the mains plug, and this is a later addition. This is like a rubberized Hoover cable or something. It's quite thick, So I'm going to replace that with something thinner because it's not very flexible. And someone warned me, there's more mud on this octal plug here, you could run the set from a battery pack, I believe. And someone warned me that one of these, if you look, there's little bits of wire there for the connectors, like in the back of an AR88. One of these is actually carrying HT. So I'm going to work on this octal plug here and make sure these wires are completely insulated, because I don't want to get zapped when I'm moving the cabinet round. Now, quite interesting, these were actually marketed, if I can lift it round. Ugh, this is heavy. These are actually marketed for boys, and I believe the earlier version, which was the 5T, actually had a like a screen print of a young man there listening to his radio. So I'm yet to fully research these, but they seem quite well regarded and quite collectible, so I'm really pleased to get this. And what I paid for it, for what it is actually laughable. I won't tell you how much I paid for it. Not a lot. And it came with some documentation as well. What I'm going to do is put this down again, and I'm going to undo the bottom. We'll have a look at the components. Right, and here's the inside, and it's just got this cover here you take off, and there's the all-important paper label still on the bottom. Right, so let's have a look at it. So here's the replacement mains lead. Now that's clearly been done at a later date, probably 1960s, 1970s. This set seems to have been worked on twice actually, from what I can tell, unless someone's using older electrolytics. I think maybe, I'm just looking at it and looking at the sequence, that maybe that and the main electrolytic here were replaced maybe in the 60s, not sure, or 70s, and possibly this, I'm not sure, certainly that, this resistor there looks quite modern, so maybe this, that and the electrolytic here replaced 60s, 70s, could be, and this was replaced relatively recently, because I've got some of those in my resistor drawers. But the rest of it is original, and there's a musty smell coming from this cloth covered wire here, which will obviously is different colours, and we'll all clean up. Now I've tried to find some pictures online of like an original untouched one, but I've not had a lot of luck so far, because what I'd like to do is return this as far as I can to original state. So I don't know what these two electrolytics would have looked like originally, but it's still got the original Sprague capacitors, wax covered capacitors in there. They will all need changing. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to change and restuff. And I'll put 630 volt components inside, and then we'll see what happens. I said the guy who sold it to me seemed a genuine enough guy, and said that it worked. How well, I don't know, not with all these old capacitors in. They're obviously getting on for 70 years old now. Well, they are 70 years old. So, you know, despite the cheapness of this set, or the relative cheapness, Seems pretty well put together. There's the back of that octal plug that I'll need to remove and change. There is some circuit diagrams online, just not with the with this particular transformer, which I would imagine would be flipping like gold dust. So I'm going to be very careful with it. And I don't know a lot about these at all. But essentially it's just a super het radio with a BFO on it, isn't it? So anyway, what I'm going to do next is get my notepad out and start writing down things that need doing. You can see how clean. So the outside, so I'll just go, the outside of the chassis here, sorry, the outside of the case is in like a quite mildly textured black matte paint, whereas the inside, so I think they've sprayed this twice, so you've got this perfectly smooth flat black which goes onto here. Yeah, I don't know, this is almost a semi-gloss paint. Very, maybe it's matte. So I guess that's what the other side of the chassis would look like, and that's what I'm going to go for. Just a semi-gloss, maybe black paint, not too glossy. And I guess then they must have sprayed this twice, and the textured paint goes on last. Who knows? It's quite interesting. I love working out how old radios went together. So there we go. Hallicrafters S19 Sky Buddy. Just have a look at the controls before I go, if I can push it back up. There we go. Right, so here we've got the wave change, and it goes from 550k all the way up to 46 megahertz, I think, on band 4. Send takes HT off the plates, off the anodes, if you're English. Yeah, so I believe that just removes HT from the valves. And that's receive, obviously. Band switch, you've got your BFO switch here, on and off. You've got your main tuning here. So that's quite... There's nothing technical about this. I think it's just a direct connection to the tuning capacitor inside. There's no fine slow motion drive or anything too expensive. And you've got your fine tuning here, which is a separate couple of plates on the tuning capacitor, and you can hear the disc. There's a big disc inside here rubbing. You've got your automatic volume control there, on and off, and you've got your mains power and your volume, and you've got the BFO pitch control, and you've got the headphone socket. Here we go. And I've just, I don't know if you can see it, I've just cleaned off the send a little bit. You can see how white it should be against the receive thing there. That one's sort of like a tea stained white, and that one's brown. So it should clean up very nicely. I'm not going to touch any of the paint, as I said. I'm just going to maybe get some paint and clean these where they're scratched a little bit, stop them going rustier. Clean the headphone socket off, knobs come off, clean them in the ultrasonic cleaner. Might take that apart, might not. clean the inside of the glass. The dial, I understand you can get reproductions of this, nice shiny new ones, but I'm not sure. I quite like, you know, just to show it's had a little bit of life to it. So there we go, there's the Hallicrafters S19.